Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
Cory, let's start at the very beginning. How did you get started buying rental properties?
So, Dan, I got started kind of by accident. I was active duty in the Army at then Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty. And, I had owned my own home and I'd been in it for a few years. And, I had a conversation with my branch manager and they said I had to leave. I said I didn't want to. And they said, well, you're going to. So I PCS'd across the country to Colorado. And, I knew I was coming back to North Carolina. So I didn't want to sell the house. So I figured I would just rent it for a couple of years and move back in. But in that couple of years, I realized how great having a rental property was. And I just wanted to do it more.
On the podcast today, we're going to talk about how that first property got Cory hooked on the idea of rental income and how he went on to buy a few more properties after that. We'll talk about where he got the money from and how he manages his properties from out of state. Joining us on the podcast today from Florida is Cory. We'll take a quick break to thank our sponsors. We'll come right back and we'll talk to Cory. Investing in rental properties can be complicated, but it doesn't have to be. My friends at MidSouth HomeBuyers sell completely rehab turnkey properties in both Memphis and Little Rock, and they've been doing it for 23 years. All their properties come totally rehab. They put on a new roof, new kitchen, new bath, new plumbing, new electric. Everything is brand new. They also have a tenant that's moved in before you close, so you get cash flow on day one. MidSouth HomeBuyers also continues to manage the property for you after closing. It couldn't be easier. Everything is 100% done for you. All their properties also come with a couple of guarantees. They have a 1-year total maintenance warranty and a lifetime occupancy guarantee. Personally, I just closed on my 5th property with MidSouth HomeBuyers, and I couldn't be happier. If you want to talk to a happy customer, reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions, or you can check them out at midsouthhomebuyers.com. Real estate, it's been a cornerstone of wealth building for generations, but it's also often a major headache for investors. 3 a.m. maintenance calls, tenant disputes, property taxes. Enter the Fundrise Flagship Real Estate Fund, a $1.1 billion real estate portfolio built for you. We're talking more than 4,000 single-family homes in thriving Sunbelt communities, 3.3 million square feet of in-demand industrial facilities, all professionally managed by an experienced team. With the Flagship Fund, you're tapping into real estate's most attractive qualities: long-term appreciation potential, a hedge against inflation, diversification beyond the stock market, check, check, check. All without complex paperwork, massive down payments, or soul-sucking landlord duties. Visit fundrise.com/RIP to explore their portfolio, check out historical returns, and see just how easy it can be to add real estate to your investing strategy. Carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Fundrise Flagship Fund before investing. This and other information can be found in the fund's perspective at fundrise.com/flagship. This is a paid advertisement. It's a lot of work to find a really good rental property, and when you actually find that property, you want to make sure you're working with a lender that can get that loan closed. The lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. She's a nationwide lender, and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. She has a ton of loan programs, and she can find something customized to you for your situation. If you want to find out more or you're ready to get started today, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Cory, let's talk about your portfolio. What does your portfolio look like?
Sure. I have that initial single family home. It's still a rental I have. I have a condo in the same town, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I have a duplex that I live in one half of and short-term rent the other in Bartow, Florida.
So how did it work? Renting out that first property when you moved away, was it hard to manage the property with you not being right there in town?
I was nervous about it, but listening to this show actually gave me the confidence to try it. And it wasn't that bad. Cell phones are pretty cool. And if unless I was right there anyways, I wasn't going to be doing the repair. So, I can call anybody and have any problem fixed, pretty quickly.
Did you rent the property out before you moved away?
It was listed before I moved, but I didn't actually rent for a month or two after I had left.
Okay. So then how did you do showings and how did you actually find the tenants?
I outsourced that part of it to begin with, mostly because I had no information about showing a property or finding tenants and background checks. So I outsourced all that and then took over the management myself once a tenant was in place.
And so everything worked out. Like it wasn't a big deal. The tenants just paid you when something broke. You just called a repair person and got it fixed.
Yeah. So I impressed upon the property manager who found the tenant, what my desirable tenant would be. And I told him I wasn't going to budge on it. I was comfortable, eating a few months of lost rent anyways. So I wanted a young professional family, somebody that was, had shown that they were going to be a responsible tenant, and that's what I got.
Right.
I got a young woman who was an occupational therapist, paid me on time every month, no damages to the home. It was great.
That's awesome. How much did you rent it out for?
Initially around $850. Rents were pretty low when I started in 2014.
And how much is it rented for today?
Today was $1,100.
$1,100. Okay. And how much is your mortgage payment?
Around $600.
Okay. So you've got some spread there. What do you do with that money? Do you set that aside for repairs or are you actually spending that money every month?
So early on, I was, it was just kind of part of my income, and the property I had purchased in Colorado when I got there needed a lot of work. So the extra income was very helpful for that. But it's now turned into kind of a self-feeding machine. My rents go into one account, mortgages are paid out of that account, and it just builds every month, feeding itself. And I don't necessarily need that as personal income.
Okay. All right. So you have the money just set aside, kind of like an emergency fund. So if something comes up, you've got some cash there, but you're not actually living off that money every month.
No, I don't need to.
Okay.
Awesome. That's the beautiful part about the strategy I used was, with being military, there's a lot of benefits that people don't realize you have with that occupation, the VA loan especially. And it just kind of makes things a lot easier.
Yeah. And
it's unfortunate that more, guys and gals in the military aren't taking advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you moved, where did you move to?
To Colorado Springs,
Colorado Springs. Okay. And this property was where? This first property?
It was, the first property was Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay. All right. So you're halfway across the country there.
I was, yeah.
When you moved to Colorado, did you buy any rentals there?
No, I didn't. I intended to rent the property that I'd purchased when I left. But it had appreciated so much in value, and especially with the improvements that I'd made on it, that the numbers just didn't make sense. It was such a big win on the sale. I couldn't pass it up.
How much did you make selling that property?
A little over $100,000 in 2 years.
That's incredible. Okay. So you lived there for 2 years. You've got that money tax free because you lived there for 2 years. And all right. So now you've got some money, and I assume you're moving again with the military.
I did. Went right back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. If anybody's ever been there, they know you can't escape it.
All right. So now you've got $100,000. You've got your house rented out. Did you keep renting that house when you moved back to town?
I did.
Okay.
And then I actually found new tenants about the same time that I'd moved back.
Okay.
And they're the tenants that I still currently have.
All right. So now you've got $100,000. So what do you do with it? Like, how did you put that to work for you?
Well, I maintain a very conservative, safety net. And I haven't actually really needed to use it until another purchase because I utilized the VA loan again.
Okay. All right. So you bought a property with the VA loan. Was this house to live in or to rent out?
Again, the plan was to live in and rent out. But again, that one ended up being the only other house that I sold.
Okay.
But that was just for fears of maintenance problems that I was projecting to have.
Okay. Did you make a profit on that property too?
A modest profit, but that's only because there was a foundation issue that wasn't caught when I purchased it, and that was a surprise $20,000 deduction from my profits at the end.
Okay, so how much did you end up clearing?
Cleared about $40,000, but
Nice,
I also lived
okay.
there for several years. So
Okay,
I'd say that's not a bad
yeah.
situation.
All right, yeah. So you're piling up some cash. You've got that initial $100,000. Now you've got an extra 40. So what did you do? What did you do? How did you put that money to work for you?
So I was actually going with a big name lender to get an investment property, and I was going to use some of that as a down payment and keep this giant safety net that I was now very happy with. And but at the last minute, the lender was really kind of hassling me about some minor details, like $1.75 and wrong on one account. And I was like, you know what, I have money. Let me just buy this place because I want it, and I'll refinance later.
Yeah,
and that's what I ended up doing.
All right, so you bought the property with cash.
And it was great, except I don't quite get the same benefit now that I'm doing taxes on it. So
yeah, that's the downside. I mean, buying a property with cash is awesome because your cash flow is higher because you don't have a mortgage payment. But the downside is that's income.
Right.
So it was just frustrating dealing with the lender that it just seemed easier to buy the property with cash.
It was right when the interest rates were really kind of getting high, and lenders were getting a little skittish, it seemed, and they were really scrutinizing a lot of things that it just, it became too burdensome compared to my previous experiences.
Now, did you ever think that, okay, well, I've got $140,000 here. That is a lot of money for down payments. I could, you really, with $140,000, like you can buy a lot of properties with down payments. Did you feel like you were maybe, because of the frustration with the lender, you were maybe shooting yourself in the foot a little bit?
Probably a little bit. But I have a really good real estate agent in the area who's, he's kind of talked me through a few potential ways to utilize that money, and listening to your show, I've learned of a couple of different ways that I could now leverage that equity. So I wasn't terribly concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, but ultimately, I wanted the property because it was in a great place, and I knew it was going to make money, and it was going to be easy to rent and no maintenance. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, you always can tap into that equity, whether it's a line of credit or doing a cash out refi. You can always get access to that money if you need to in the future. So, tell me about the property. What did you end up buying?
So I bought a 2-bed, 2-bath condo in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay. And how much?
That's a first floor condo.
And how much did you pay for it?
$126,500.
Okay. All right. Let's look at some numbers on that property. So if you're so you even though you don't have a mortgage, you still have property taxes and insurance. If you were to break your taxes down to a monthly amount, how much do you pay every month?
Monthly taxes come to about $58.
Okay. And how about insurance?
About $20.
Okay. And then it being a condo, you've got a condo fee. How much is your condo fee every month?
$163.
Okay. And then do you have a property manager?
I do. I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad, pretty new at it. So I wanted a property manager until I got the reins on the kids.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how much does your manager charge?
$150 a month.
$150. Okay. All right. So your total expenses every month before any kind of repairs or vacancy is $390 a month?
Roughly, yeah,
Okay.
$390 a month.
And how much is it rented for?
$1,275.
$1,275. Okay, so $1,275 minus $390 is $885. So you've got $885 a month in cash flow. And then tell me again what you're doing with that. So is that going into that account that you talked about earlier, where you're just saving up money for anything that might come up?
Right, Dan. Yeah, it goes right into one checking account, and like I said, the mortgages are paid out of that account, so it just feeds itself. And there's enough of a cushion in there that, if a tenant moves out, which I'm actually about to have a vacancy coming up, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It just, the mortgage will get paid out of it. There's enough there, and it just keeps rocking and rolling.
I love it. Okay. All right. So then what did you do after that? So now you've got the house that you lived in, you've got the condo. How did you keep growing your portfolio after that?
So I really loved the idea of house hacking. And I know I kind of did this in reverse, that most people house hack first and then move into their own house later. I'm now house hacking in a duplex in Florida.
Okay. So you've moved again with the military.
Yes.
And
actually I retired and my wife's in law school. So, so now that's why I'm the full-time dad.
Awesome. So tell me about this duplex.
Sure. It's in Polk County, Florida. Everyone, was reading about Polk County, Florida. Don't believe it. Move away. Don't come here. No, it's a great place. It's up and coming. I love it here. So it's a duplex in Bartow, Florida. I'm living on one side and I'm short-term renting the other.
So what made you go with a short-term rental versus just getting a regular tenant?
Yeah, maybe this sounds crazy, but diversification. And I kind of wanted to try it.
Okay. And are you Airbnb-ing it?
It's listed on everything. Airbnb, VRBO, all those.
Which one is working best for you?
It's mostly Airbnb, but also I have a lot of, traveling workers that come through this area. And I have a property manager, a real whiz bang one here. Even if I wanted to manage this property, it would be dumb because she does such a fantastic job that I would be shooting myself in the foot, taking it away from her.
Right. So yeah, that's interesting. So the property manager does everything. Like she's dealing with communication with the tenants, making sure that the property is getting clean between tenants. So you've taken yourself out of it.
Mostly. I mean, she comes to me like if there's, if they notice a repair needed before I do, they'll ask me, but I'm right here. I can do a lot of stuff myself, but if I'm out of town, then she just handles it.
Yeah. So how does that work? Like, does the Airbnb money end up paying the mortgage on the property?
It does, and then some. Actually, I'm clearing, low end $300 a month on top of all of my expenses, and high end $1,000 a month.
Nice. Is it seasonal? Where there's some months that are busier than other months?
It's Central Florida, so I mean it's theoretically seasonal. I just started last April, and it's been rented pretty steady, even in the summer. It stayed pretty busy. So I think I'm just getting a good mix of tenants because of the area, and it's been going great. Hopefully, I see a big increase in from the snowbirds, but I don't necessarily need it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's awesome. So you're making between that first house you lived in, the condo, and the Airbnb, like what are you clearing? Like about $1,500 a month between everything? Low end. Okay. And and then it just gets higher at some point. That's really awesome. I think that's a great portfolio. I think you've done a really good job. Let me circle back to something you mentioned earlier that you owned a property and you had some foundation problems. So what happened?
So it was a 2-story brick home in, sort of a rural area of central North Carolina, and built in the 70s and looked rock solid. And I noticed some cracks and some bricks, and I thought it just needed, repointing, and I deployed and came back and realized those cracks had gotten bigger. So I called an expert to come in and give me some advice, and it came out to be nine helical piers, and those are about $2,000 a piece.
Oh, wow. So was it, if you didn't address that, like, were you in danger of like the house falling down or something?
No, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't going to get better. And I was already to the point where I knew I was leaving, and it was either going to be a rental or I was going to sell it. So it had to be done. So I just, I had all those cash reserves. So, just bit the bullet and paid it, and got it over with. And
that really underscores the importance of having cash reserves. You just never know when something like that's going to come up. So that's great. You had the cash to get that fixed. Well, if anybody wants to reach out to Cory, I've got his contact information on the website. You can find it at rentalincomepodcast.com/episode 512. I'd like to thank Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking to buy a rental property, whether you're just getting started or you want to add to your portfolio, reach out to Chaley. She's got a ton of different loan programs, and she can find something that'll work for you. If you want to find out more, or you want to talk to Chaley personally, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. I'll be back with a new episode next Tuesday. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.